If you were around in the mid to late 90s, then you'll no doubt have had or known someone who had a Nokia mobile phone. They were everywhere. And because the brand was so popular, it seemed that everyone had their own Nokia charger somewhere. They were as ubiquitous as micro USB is today. I won't go into the rise and fall of Nokia, as it's a pretty well documented story, but suffice to say they were once huge. I didn't start off as a Nokia user. I had a Maxon MN1, which was also known as the Maxon MX3204. It was a pay-as-you-talk phone on Vodafone here in the UK, and I had it for about a year before I broke the antenna and then bought my first Nokia, the 5110. Over the next few years I had numerous Nokia phones and a couple of Sony Ericssons thrown into the mix, until the purchase of my first iPhone in 2007. The models I had go a little something like this: the Nokia 5110, the Nokia 3210, the Nokia 7110, which was Nokia's first WAP phone and used the Series 40 operating system, the Nokia 6210, the Nokia 7210. I then had a few Sony Ericsson phones. Then I had a Nokia 6260, another Sony Ericsson phone, before coming back to Nokia finally with the Nokia N93 and then the Nokia 6300. So today we're going to have a look at the Nokia 7110. This was Nokia's first phone with a colour display for the mass market. The screen is a 128 by 128 pixel, 4096 colour DSTN display. On the top we have an infrared port as well as the power on/off button. On the left hand side we have a volume rocker. There is nothing on the right. On the bottom we have the charging port as well as the newly introduced pop port and the microphone. Nokia sold several colours of this device, as they did with other models, but you weren't stuck with the original colour that you purchased. Nokia sold express covers, which were front and back shell for the phone. You could take them off without using any tools and replace them with a different colour should you so desire. There was a burgeoning aftermarket for compatible cases, allowing for further customisation. This also meant Nokia didn't have to make multiple phones for different language markets, as the keypad with the local language could be inserted and then the language programmed into the phone's operating system. Under the battery is the serial number and the SIM card and nothing else. This phone was introduced long before memory cards were as common as they are today. Reassembling the phone is relatively quick and easy. The front snaps on, as does the back. The operating system for this phone is called Series 40, or S40 for short. Although S40 had been released with the introduction of the 7110, this was the first time it was in colour, although the screen technology and limited colour palette didn't show it off to its full potential. DSTN offers low power consumption, but inferior sharpness and brightness compared to TFT screens. Display quality is poor compared to TFT, with visible noise, smearing, much lower contrast and slow response. Let's power it up. Startup is nice and quick and plays the familiar Nokia sound using polyphony. Polyphonic ringtones were also new. Polyphony is a type of musical texture consisting of two or more simultaneous lines of independent melody, as opposed to a musical texture with just one voice, which is what phones used to use. After setting the date and time, you're brought to the phone's main display. On the left is the signal strength and on the right is the battery charge meter. Pressing the top left button brings up the phone's menu, and using the buttons in the middle allow you to navigate up and down through the interface. One of the main benefits of S40 was the ability to run third-party applications. These were .jar Java applications that could be either downloaded via the phone's data connection or transferred over via USB. The phone only has about 700 kilobytes available, however, so you weren't going to get much installed. Snake was also included, but this version was also in Java, which meant it could be upgraded over time and new features added, whereas the original version was stored in ROM and couldn't be upgraded once the phone had left the factory. The phone included speakerphone functionality, allowing you to use the phone hands-free if required. Volume could be increased using the rocker on the left. Call quality was excellent, as was the 2.5G coverage. Flicking through the customization options, you're given the ability to change the ringtone as well as a theme for the menus. All in all, this phone could be customized quite extensively. However, I haven't decided to turn this channel into a retro phone review channel. I wanted to show you something quite interesting you can do with this phone, and it involves photography. But hang on a minute, this phone doesn't even have a camera. What on earth has photography got to do with this phone? Well, as I mentioned before, the phone has a pop port connector on the bottom. This allows for the expansion of the phone beyond what it can do standalone. The first pop port accessory in the box was a pair of headphones and microphone. Even back in the day, phones didn't have headphone jacks. The microphones served a dual purpose, however. Not only did they allow you to use the phone hands-free, similar to the speakerphone, but they also acted as an antenna, which meant you could listen to FM radio. You could get a pop port to USB connector, allowing you to plug your phone into the computer and synchronize calendar and contact information, or what I want to show you today. This, my friends, is the Nokia camera headset HS1C, which is a pop port camera accessory. Inside the box is a user guide in multiple languages, as well as an image of a ridiculous idea somebody at Nokia came up with. The idea was for you to be able to plug in headphones on top of the camera. However, the camera cable is already 1 meter long, and with headphones you'd have a tangle of cables to contend with. Let's put all that aside and get to the good stuff. The camera looks quite sleek in its dual-tone silver and black finish. To get to the lens, the body slides apart, revealing a viewfinder and the LED. Around to one side is the 2.5mm headphone jack, allowing for the use of headphones to listen to the radio whilst the camera is connected. But why 2.5mm, Nokia? On the top is the shutter button, and around the front is the VGA lens with an aperture of f2.8. This camera needs a lot of light, and even with a lot of light make for some very grainy images. Plugging the cable into the pop port is easy and is held snugly in place, reducing accidental disconnection. To use this camera, you have to use the optical viewfinder. There is no live preview on the phone, and if there were, the low quality and poor refresh rate probably wouldn't help. Also, there are no audio indicators that the camera has actually taken an image. The LED simply flashes once and then flashes several times whilst it transfers the image to the phone. Let's find a test subject. I asked around, but only Yoshi said he wouldn't mind being on camera. To take a picture, you slide open the camera and then look through the viewfinder. This is tricky as the camera I'm using to film this is in the way. The green LED shows you that the camera is on. You press the shutter button and try to hold as still as possible. The LED goes out and then flashes several times. File received is then shown on the phone, and it's only now that you can see what you've taken a picture of. As the phone is limited on storage, and each image takes slightly over 30 kilobytes, this means that you could take and store approximately 20 to 25 images before you run out of space. You could of course review and delete images on the fly, but without the ability to zoom, or even show the correct number of colours, it's really a guessing game of which picture to keep or delete. Taking images like this is time consuming and cumbersome. I couldn't imagine using this camera for anything other than the novelty factor. The picture format is JPEG with a resolution of 640 by 480. Another irritation is when you save an image to the phone, it doesn't automatically add the JPG extension to the image. Although the phone can read and display the picture, when copying it over to Windows, because the extension is not present, Windows can't open it unless you add it manually. An easy fix is to save the image to the phone and add it there and then. Images stored on the phone could be sent to someone via multimedia message or via email if configured. Sending images via MMS or email was extremely expensive back in the day, and something that we don't bat an eyelid at today, what with iMessage or WhatsApp. Network operators certainly knew how to get extra revenue streams from their customers. Thankfully, I didn't have many friends who I could send images to, so at the time picture messaging was a bit of a novelty. The Nokia 7210 was superseded by the 7250, which had a very similar candy bar form factor but with a more conventional keypad layout, and this time it included a built-in camera. I can't find out the resolution of the camera, but I would assume that it would also be VGA. The software on the 7250 was also tweaked to allow for the zooming in and out of images, but it still had the same amount of storage as the 7210, given the same restriction on the number of pictures the phone could hold. I don't remember taking many pictures with my 7210, but I did use most of the other features, including the FM radio, which was particularly well used whilst I commuted to London on the train. In the next episode, as we're on the topic of cameras, we'll be looking at my family's first digital camera from Fuji. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.